There we go.
We're good now.
So first, it's important to inform you guys that preparing to transfer and eventually walking through the doors at your next college is a process. It's a three-part process, in fact. First, you must prepare. Second, you must plan. And finally, you must succeed. By the end of our presentation today, our goal is that you will understand the elements associated with the transfer process and feel confident that you will be able to succeed as you undertake this process, beginning during your time here with us at Laurel Ridge. Before we continue, I have just one quick note. We will have time for questions at the end of the presentation, so please hold any questions till then. If you do have a burning question that you don't want to forget about, feel free to type it in the chat as we go, and we will answer it at the end. So here we are at step one, the preparation stage. We advise you to always be wise in your preparations. Otherwise, you might set yourself up for an outcome that you are not prepared for, much like eating a heavy, carb-filled lunch before running a 5K. Thank you to Michael Scott for this lesson. At this stage, you might be wondering, why should I even bother transferring at all? One of the major factors that pushes students to transfer and complete a bachelor's degree is the job market. Many employers today, particularly for professional positions, will not even offer job seekers an interview without a bachelor's degree. This is because in many cases, associate's degrees are not intended to stand alone. While we do offer applied associate's degrees at Laurel Ridge, most of our students are in Associates of Science or Associates of Arts and Sciences degree programs, which include elective and subject-specific courses meant to transfer to a bachelor's degree program. You will hear about these degrees referred to as transfer degrees for this reason. By comparison, bachelor's degrees are intended to stand alone. This is because they give preparation for the professional job market through concentrated study in a particular field, offering students the opportunity to become an expert in something they are passionate about. As well, bachelor's degree programs typically offer students the chance to make additional professional connections through mentors and professors in their field. In many cases, bachelor's degree students have expanded opportunities for internships and experiential learning, giving students more hands-on experience in their field, which companies will love to see on a resume after graduation. For students who want to increase their chances of professional employment after graduation, the extra time and effort required to attain a bachelor's degree almost always pays off. In short, associate's degrees do not always stand alone, but bachelor's degrees do. It may come as no surprise to you that as a result of the job market requiring bachelor's degrees for more and more positions, studies have shown that those with bachelor's degrees and beyond are making more and more money when compared with their less educated counterparts. In short, overall, lifetime earnings increase as the level of education increases. The more degrees you earn, the greater your earning potential in the marketplace. You can see this logic represented in the graphs on this slide, which are sourced from a 2021 Georgetown study, which even as a UVA alum, I must admit is a very reputable school. These graphs show that lifetime earnings on average increase with the level of education. There are some variations and exceptions to this within each educational level, which might be explained by differences in the field of study and the occupations that exist within each field, as well as cost of living factors, and unfortunately, even today, gender, race, and ethnicity. So how can you personally know if earning a bachelor's degree will actually benefit you on the dollar bill side of things? The answer is research. Yeah, you have to look up some facts, figures, and educational requirements concerning your desired occupation. Think along the lines of a dream job or career here, because at the prepare stage, we want to think about big picture ideas. Then align your academic plan to the path that will set you up for the most success. And don't forget that success also means having opportunities for advancement with the job or career field you choose to pursue. If your research on your dream job or career suggests a bachelor's degree or higher for the most opportunity for success and advancement, well, then you have yourself an answer. You've got to go grab those degrees. Throughout this presentation, we will continue to refer to transferring as a process for a reason. That's because that's exactly what it is. Like our penguin friend here, What we're trying to accomplish takes several steps and sometimes might feel a bit messy and overwhelming to deal with. But in the end, we know you can be successful. Let's consider the dictionary definition of process on the slide. A series of actions that produce something or that lead to a particular result. This sounds a lot like what we're asking you to do as you begin your transfer journey. That is, we're asking you to make a list of actions that will produce your ultimate goal or preferred result, a bachelor's degree from the school of your choice. In our case, the series of actions are in order: establish your timeline, decide on your path, research your options, and make the deadline. The end result is that you produce a competitive application for admission into a bachelor's degree program and obtain acceptance. This will eventually lead to your ultimate result, a bachelor's degree with your name on it. Now I will turn the slides over to my colleague who will walk us through this important process.
Okay, so the first step in the transfer process is establishing a timeline. So included in these timelines are your deadlines and due dates. Important things to consider when looking at these important dates are when you want to transfer, and of course, in which semester you want to start taking classes at your desired institution, whether that be the fall or the spring semester. And you may choose to transfer after completing your entire associate's degree, or you may opt to just take a few classes for a semester or two and then transfer. So if you're an individual who falls into the category of wanting to transfer prior to completing a degree, there are courses called passport courses, which are universally transferable. They satisfy like lower division general education requirements, and you may want to discuss that with your advisor, see what passport courses may be beneficial for you, or you can complete what's called the Uniform Certificate of General Studies, or UCGS, and that focuses on as well completing those lower division general education requirements. So once you have an idea of when you want to transfer, it's important to note the best time to actually start researching your transfer school options is 1 year before you want to start taking classes at that new institution. So for those of you who do plan to transfer for spring 2024, I really hope you've already done the majority of that research and you're getting ready to submit that application. For those of you who plan to transfer after spring 2024, now would be a really good time to get started on that research, and you'll want to make sure that you take note of application dates and deadlines for some of those most top schools or the most interesting schools to you. Now, all schools are different, but most institutions do have an application deadline for fall around March 1st and for spring around October 1st. It's important to note that some schools do have what's called rolling admissions, or they may have dates that are later than the March 1st and October 1st deadlines. But even so, in those cases, your final semester at Laurel Ridge is still pretty too late to start planning that transfer process. It's never too early to do that. You could start doing that in your very first semester with us. All right, as I'm sure you've heard multiple times already, research is very important throughout the entire transfer process. And we're not talking about the extent of research that you would have to do for like a paper in one of your classes, but enough Googling to get the information that you're looking for. You want to uncover your options, your resources, perspective, and then specific guidelines. So going back to uncover those options, one great tool that all Laurel Ridge students have access to is a site called Transfer Virginia, which I'm getting ready to explore with you here in a minute. The site is currently still a work in progress, so it may not have all of the information that you're looking for, but it's definitely a good starting point. So I'm just going to change my screen here so I can show you that website. Okay, this is the Transfer Partners page. When you first go to the website, this is what you're going to see. This is the home page. If you click on, there's an option for you to log in or create an account. This is encouraged for students because if you do create an account, there's some tools that you can utilize that you can reference back to. One of those cool features is you can actually upload your Laurel Ridge transcript or enter classes that you have taken with us. And then you can compare those classes to other institutions, like where they may transfer or what programs they may transfer into. So I encourage all of you to create an account. But the transfer partners page is another thing that I wanted to highlight. This has our 2-year transfer partners, so all of the community colleges, but then our 4-year transfer partners. So I'm just going to click on a common school that students transfer to, so George Mason. These are pretty much set up the exact same way. So in this little pink tab, you have some important facts about the institution. And as you scroll down, you'll see a bunch of links down here for you to explore information about their admissions, financial aid, their majors, application deadlines, all things like that. Now, this is like I said, very good starting point for you. But if you're looking for more detailed information, it still may be beneficial to go directly to your desired transfer institution's actual website. All right, the next thing I want to show you is our transfer visits and events page, and this is on the Laurel Ridge website. This is where you can see all of the schools that may be coming to Laurel Ridge when they're visiting, or you can see their contact information. So I'm just going to click on one of the top ones here, Christopher Newport. You can see the transfer representative is Chelsea Mullins. You can see her contact information, and that she'll be visiting the Fauquier campus on Tuesday, October 3rd. So there's tons of schools on this page. So if you're looking to see if a school is visiting us, visit this page, and you can see some don't require that you have an appointment, like they're just doing a table or something like that. But JMU, for instance, they do require that students sign up. So just make sure you make note of that. All right, I'm going to go back to our presentation now. Okay, can you see the presentation?
No.
All right, hold on. Okay. There we go. All right, so going back to just talking how I was talking about the transfer representatives, you do want to make sure that you schedule those one-on-one appointments with them. If you do have any questions about the transfer process or anything like that, because not only can they walk you through the procedure and requirements of their specific institution, but they can also answer any questions you may have about different aspects of academic life at their school. So use them as an additional resource to uncover that perspective, because they'll be able to, get the information that you might need to make a decision if you want to go to their school or not. Of course, you can always consult with your past professors, mentors, professionals in that field, or of course, your academic advisor. So last thing on this slide is the guaranteed admission agreements, which falls under guidelines. So GAA, you'll see that acronym a lot, and that stands for the guaranteed admission agreement. And this is basically a binding contract between Laurel Ridge and each individual transfer institution. The GAA then guarantees admission or acceptance to Laurel Ridge students who meet the criteria set forth by that transfer school. Because the details of each agreement are finalized by each individual transfer school, all agreements do not necessarily have the same criteria. Typically, however, each will carry a minimum GPA requirement and then a minimum number of completed credits. Some agreements might also require specific courses to be completed or have a maximum number of course retakes that are allowed, or you may have to submit some more supporting documentation like a letter of intent. So the takeaway from that is the requirements for the GAAs can vary significantly from school to school, and navigating these differences can be confusing. So that's why you want to research early and speak with transfer representatives as well. So just to wrap up this section, here are two final takeaways with this. Just because a student meets guaranteed admission, the agreement requirements, does not mean that they are guaranteed acceptance into their desired major at that school. Some majors do have additional requirements that must be met outside of the GAA. So this is, again, another reason why consulting with your advisor and transfer representatives is very important. And then the GAA is not the only way to transfer. Students are accepted competitively all of the time. So if you don't meet the GAA guidelines, you can still apply as a regular transfer applicant. All right, so now I'm going to turn it over to Tiffany, who's going to walk us through the next part of the planning process.
All right, so next we're going to talk about what goes into planning, and we're going to start making our plans. So first off, we'll talk about academic planning. It's important to plan out the remaining courses you have left to complete your degree at Laurel Ridge and be sure that you're set up to graduate in your desired semester. Make sure your remaining classes you need will be offered in upcoming semesters, and ensure you've completed any prereqs and considered and thought about what's a realistic course load for you. You'll want to use your remaining elective courses within your degree to fulfill pre-major requirements for your desired school or program once you transfer. And while it might be really fun to use your elective credits on yoga and hiking, it may not be the most beneficial option in the long run. Your academic advisor and transfer representative can help you in planning your final semesters. And some universities offer documents called roadmaps or transfer guides that are extremely helpful in pointing out classes that are most beneficial for students to complete prior to transferring to their school. So we'll take a look at one of the example roadmap documents from Virginia Tech for their animal and poultry sciences major. So this roadmap from Virginia Tech is, if you're in a program where it says you have a math elective or science with a lab to take and you're not sure what you should choose, for this one, you are going to be in 167 or 162. 161, 162 for your math, that's required for admission. And they want you to have chemistry 111 or 112 or bio 101 or 102. Those are all required for admission to that program. You'll also see courses that are strongly recommended that you complete and also recommended for admission to animal and poultry science major. You'll also want to make sure that you're efficient with your time and you're completing as many pre-major requirements as possible prior to transferring. Don't take too many extra credits that don't align with degree requirements for Laurel Ridge. And remember, transfer schools will usually only take a certain number of credits. So unless you need to take an extra class to meet an admission requirement, it's not typically recommended to take classes outside of what is required for your associate's degree. And you also want to keep your grades up. So D's get degrees at Laurel Ridge, but if you want to make sure that that transfers, you want to C or better, and class retakes are always an option here. So personal planning, deciding what you do after leaving Laurel Ridge is a really big decision. You'll want to talk it over with your support system, your friends, family, pets, whoever knows you best. They might help provide valuable insight into factors that you haven't considered and take everything into account, but keep in mind that it's ultimately your decision. So some non-academic factors you should keep in mind when picking out the perfect transfer school for you are the location, the distance from home, from work, the class delivery options. Do they offer in-person, online, hybrid classes? If the location is rural or in a city, and transportation options. You'll want to look into housing. If you're prepared for a roommate situation, will you live on campus or off campus, or is on campus an option for transfer students? You'll also want to consider your extracurricular activities on campus, off campus, and any hobbies you might take up at the 4-year. And financial planning. So you'll want to be sure to submit your FAFSA by your school's priority deadline to ensure that you're able to maximize all the funds you may be eligible for. Also, be aware that while Laurel Ridge does not automatically award student loans, other schools may so. So be sure to renew your financial aid package before accepting to be sure you fully understand what you're going to be awarded there. You'll also see if your school has transfer-specific scholarships. They might have merit-based, need-based scholarships too, and you'll plan ahead because some schools have earlier application deadlines to be considered for scholarships. You'll also want to think about if you're planning to work while completing school and explore work study opportunities or other part-time jobs. And tuition and books are just part of the cost of college. You'll also have to consider those other adulting costs, especially if you're going away from home and do not intend to live on campus. You'll want to be attentive when reviewing rental contracts. Does the cost include your utilities, internet, etc.? How are you going to get from school? Your car? Does your school charge for parking? Many do. Is there public transportation available? Will you be living close enough to walk to campus? You'll want to think about your food options. Are you going to get a meal plan through the school or grocery shop and prepare food yourself? And other living costs, spending money for social activities like athletic events on campus. And you'll also have to plan your application process. So most applications cannot be completed overnight. Some require essays or additional documents to be sent, and they definitely want your transcripts. So requesting official transcripts, that's usually a service through Parchment. So you definitely want to plan ahead. So plan to submit your application before their deadlines. And keep in mind, many schools require all documentation to be received by that application due date. This means your transcripts too. So request your transcripts early to ensure everything is received by your transfer school on time. And your transfer representative is going to be your best friend at that school. They are the experts at their colleges and their admission processes. So come prepared for appointments with them so you maximize your time. And it's usually beneficial to have a copy of your unofficial transcript at any meeting with a transfer representative. So now we will transition the presentation over to Jocelyn.
Okay, so at this point in the process, you've done your research, you've created your plan, and now we're moving on to those final steps, completing the application and graduating. All right, so this is just some reminders for things that we've kind of already gone throughout the presentation, but transferring is a process. It's not a single event. The transfer process takes time and research, and it cannot be completed overnight. Remember to check in with yourself throughout the entire process. So you want to assess your strengths and weaknesses and just ensure that you're going down a path that you're actually interested in and passionate about. And it's totally okay to change your mind. You don't have to stick with a decision that you made at the very beginning of your enrollment at Laurel Ridge. You may find that after taking a few classes on a particular program that you're really just not as interested as you thought you would be, and that's totally okay. You can meet with your advisor and discuss your options prior to transferring. You also want to make sure that you keep your transfer notes organized and in an easily accessible place, because you'll want to continuously check those notes to remind yourself of the application deadlines or required documentation, especially if you'll be applying to multiple schools, because it's a lot of information to keep track of. Now, when you're making the decision on which schools you're most interested in applying to, a good rule of thumb would be to submit to 1 to 3 schools, but you can certainly submit to more. And then keep checking in with your academic advisor throughout your time at Laurel Ridge to make sure that you're aligning your degree coursework with that of the transfer school as closely as possible. And then, of course, don't forget about your transfer representatives. All right, so here are just the few reminders about submitting that application. You want to tailor your application to the specific school or program that you're applying to. For any personal statements that may be required, this is really the time to highlight your qualities that may not be readily apparent just by looking through your application. It's the time to set yourself apart from the rest. And as we've mentioned, remember to submit your application before that final deadline. Make note if your specific major has an earlier application deadline than the general admissions application, or if you have to apply earlier for scholarships, as Tiffany had mentioned. You should also keep in mind that application deadlines for most institutions require all of that supporting documentation as well, which does include your transcripts. And again, you can request those through our website, laurelridge.edu/request a transcript, or you can just type in transcript on our homepage and that will take you there as well. So just make sure you request those ahead of time so that they have enough time for processing and your transfer institution receives it before the deadline. So to close out the presentation, we're going to turn it back over to Caroline.
So by this point in the process, you're almost at the very end. You've made it to graduation. Congratulations in advance on this awesome achievement. We're so proud of you. When you are approaching your last semester at Laurel Ridge, it is time to apply for graduation. You can complete the graduation application in your student center, which is on your SIS account in My Laurel Ridge. So the link provided on this slide will take you to more detailed instructions on how to apply as well. So something fun and important to note is that if you apply for graduation before enrollment opens for the next semester, you can enroll before the general population of students. This gives you more class options and better class selection, which makes it easier to schedule your classes around existing obligations in your life. As was mentioned before, if you plan on transferring before graduating from Laurel Ridge, that's okay too. It's just important we know when you want to transfer and ensure that you are meeting the requirements for competitive admission. Now, we know that this was a lot of information and that the transfer process can feel overwhelming at the start, but please know that your Laurel Ridge advisor and the transfer reps that we connect you with from the other schools are here to help you along the way. We're glad to answer any questions you have, or if you have a question we can't answer, we can help you find the person who does know the answer. That is our pledge to you. At this time, we'd like to open the floor for any questions you may have right now regarding this presentation or the transfer process as a whole.